Hey guys, Mr. Mercedes here, and I'm here to teach you your first clarinet lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to open up the case for the first time. We're going to learn how to assemble the clarinet. We're going to create an embouchure. We're going to learn how to make a sound on the barrel and the mouthpiece. We're going to learn a couple notes. We're going to learn how to transpose from B flat to any other key. And then we're going to play a little song with those notes that we learned. So get ready to play. Now we know what you're thinking. How do I open up my clarinet case without all of the parts falling out of it? Well, I'm here to help. First, what you want to do is get your clarinet case. There's going to be a side with a logo, and there's going to be a side without a logo. What you want to do is lay the clarinet down on these little pegs. So you're going to lay it down on the pegs. You want to have the logo facing upward. That's how you know that it's in the correct position to be opened. If your case doesn't have a logo, there should be latches on the front, and those should be flipped upward, and then the little metal part should be coming down. So we'll open up the case, and let's get started. So right off the bat, we see that the clarinet comes in all these different pieces. There's little pockets, there's very little things in here, but they all come together to create the clarinet. So don't be frightened by all the parts. So when you first open the clarinet case, you're going to see there's going to be a little pocket. It could be on the left or on the right, or right on the front. It's more commonly on the left. Mine is on the left, so I'm just going to say that it's on the left. So, within that pocket, there should be a little plastic, something that looks like this. It might be blue, it might be black, it doesn't really matter. But within that wrapping, it's going to be this. This is called the reed, and this is what flaps on the mouthpiece, which we're going to talk about later, that we screw onto, and that's what makes the clarinet play. It flaps back and forth on the mouthpiece with the air when you put it in your mouth. So when we first get the reed, we want to take it out of the plastic casing and put the casing to the side. Doesn't really matter where you put it. And throughout the whole assembly of the clarinet, you want to keep it in your mouth. You want to gently place it on your tongue and just be careful with it. It's very fragile. You don't want to break it any kind of way, because that's just not a fun time. So remember, keep it in your mouth the whole entire time. Now we're actually going to put the clarinet together. Let's do it. So, with your right hand, you're going to grab this piece. It's called the lower joint. I classified it by having one cork on it. So the lower joint only has one cork, so we want to grab that with our right hand. So we have the lower joint in our right hand. In the left hand, we're going to grab this piece. It's called the bell. You can classify it by looking kind of like an ice cream cone, but it's not an ice cream cone. Please do not eat ice cream off of this. It's not going to be good for your instrument. But anyway, so what we want to do is, with a gentle twisting motion, we want to take our left hand and we want to twist the bell onto the bottom, on the cork of the lower joint. We want to make sure to grab the black of the upper joint so no keys are really putting any stress on. So we don't want to destroy or break, because it's very fragile. We don't want to break anything. So in the end, it's going to look something like this. And then let's go on to the next piece. So the next piece we want to grab with our left hand is this piece. This piece is called the upper joint. The upper joint has a cork on the top and a cork on the bottom. And to know where the top is, we see that there's going to be a little logo, and there's going to be these pieces on the back. We know that the thumb hole right here and the octave key are going to be at the top. So that's how we know which part is the top and which is the bottom. And we want to be careful here when we're putting the upper joint and the lower joint together. Now what we want to do is, we want to press either this silver button right here, or this button with a hole in the center. So either one works. I like holding the hole because it's a little bit bigger, so it gives me a little more leverage. But as you see, when we press those keys, this little latch is being raised. That is called the bridge key. And on the bottom half of the clarinet, on the lower joint, there's a little receiver right here. And when we lift that key, we want to put those together. So this wants to flap onto this little area right here. So, like screwing on any piece on the clarinet, we want to be as gentle as possible and hold as little keys as we can. So I hold it down with my middle finger, and then we line up those keys, and with a gentle twisting motion, keep the bridge key up until the cork hits the top of the lower joint. And once it's hitting the lower joint, we want to align. There's going to be two little lines on the top bridge key. So we want to align those. And once it's together, a good little test to see if you put it together properly is hit these keys down here. And when you hit these keys and the keys I was talking about, the little silver button and the little hole below the silver button are moving, that means you put it together properly. Now we're almost done. So the next part, we want to grab this piece. This is called the barrel. As you can see, there's a thinner end and there's a little bit of a wider end. And you can probably tell that we're going to put the wider end on the top of the upper joint. We see here. Again, gentle twisting motion. Hold as little black keys as possible. Okay, so we want to gently twist it on, and then we're almost there. Now, there's one more piece of this clarinet that we actually have to put on to the instrument, and that is called the mouthpiece. It's the last thing that's in your case, really, in any of the holes that the parts came in, so it's not like you're not going to have one. Every clarinet has one. You may or may not have a little plastic covering, but if you do, it's not really necessary in the assembly. Just put it to the side, run your case. I like putting it in my case just to know that it's there. And on the mouthpiece, there's this silver piece with little screws on it. That is called the ligature. We're going to come back to this, but gently put it to the side because that is what holds the reed in place, which we'll get into very soon. Anyway, so we have the hole right here and the front right here. We want to have the logo facing the same direction as the keys. So the hole wants to be facing us because that's where we're going to blow into. We're going to blow into that. So what we want to do is, again, hold it by the barrel. Any black that you can hold on to it because that's your best friend here. Gently twisting motion. Gentle twisting motion is everything while assembling. And when we have it on there, we're going to have this octave key in the thumbs. We want to make sure all the hole wants to align with all the keys on the back. So it looks like with a little adjusting, we'll have it all together. Okay, we're almost done with assembly. So what you want to do is, finally, take the reed out of your mouth that it's been in your mouth the whole time. So here we go. Now this is the fun part and really, really delicate part. So listen to me very carefully. So on this reed, there's a flat end and there's a curvy end. We put the flat end on top of the hole of this mouthpiece. So when we're putting the flat part on the mouthpiece, we want to make sure that you have a little tip of the mouthpiece that goes over the reed. So let's see if I can get this in there. You can see that there's a little bit of mouthpiece that's above the reed. We want to always keep it like that. So once we have it held there, and then you take this piece that we talked about before. It's called the ligature. You're going to see that the holes have different sizes. So there's a smaller end and a bigger end. We want to put the bigger end on top. And that's what holds the mouthpiece in place. And then these screws is what keeps the reed in place like for a long time. So when we're tightening these screws, we don't want to have it too tight because then it can break the reed. We just want the screws tight enough to hold the reed in place. So when you're playing, it doesn't move everywhere because we don't want the reed to move. We want to keep it steady but not too tight so the reed doesn't crack. And there you go. The clarinet is assembled. Now let's move on to actually getting a note out. So in order to play the clarinet, we have to have something called an embouchure. And that is placing your mouth actually on the mouthpiece and the reed. So what beginner woodwind students want to do is take the barrel, remember hold as much black as possible, gently twist the barrel and the mouthpiece off of the clarinet. And now what we do with the body, place it to the side, on top of your case, on a table, somewhere flat surface where it's safe so you know where it is. So this is where we create our embouchure. Let me come in a little closer so you can see. So when we put the mouthpiece on our mouth, we want to have our bottom lip over our bottom teeth. So kind of like this. I like to have the red of my lips over my bottom teeth. So like kind of like this. When you see that, you're going to place the mouthpiece on your bottom lip. I like to put it right above, like between the top screw and the mouthpiece, so a little bit above the middle there. So we have that like that. And then once we're there, we put our teeth on top of the mouthpiece. And then once our teeth are on there, we just want to close our mouth just to keep it steady. So like this. And that's our embouchure. Now before we play with our new embouchure that we just created, I'm very excited for you guys because this is a big deal for me. Anyway, so before we play, we want to learn how to breathe properly. So when we're sitting upright, we want to sit straight on the edge of your chair with your back straight and your shoulders as loose and straight as you possibly can. So look kind of like me. My back is straight, I'm on the edge of my chair, my shoulders are flat but steady. And then next what we want to do is breathe in, and as you breathe out, you want to say the word to and breathe out at the same time. So, because that's how we tongue each note, with the T sound. That is the base, that's the backbone of every tonguing on any instrument. So that's how we breathe, and we're going to have our tongue. Now we're actually going to play on the mouthpiece. Now that we have our embouchure and we have our breathing exercise done, we're ready to go. So what you want to do is put your embouchure back, you know, little refresher, bottom teeth, lip rolls over bottom teeth, place in them center, place teeth on top, and then close your mouth. Now what you want to do is keep that, you stay there, keep that, breathe in with your mouth, and if you breathe out, you're going to get a little sound like this. See the two? You heard it? Ta. That's what we want to hear. So do that a couple times. I know it might be a little high pitched and annoying for some people, but this is what we want to do. So do it a couple times. And that's our embouchure, how to breathe and how to get our note out of our mouthpiece and barrel. Okay, so now we're going to actually play the clarinet. And before we play, we have to put the mouthpiece and barrel back on and line up the reed with the back keys. So you see all these keys here? We want to keep our thumb on this thumb rest. So I like to think of it as like a little Lego man kind of motion, like the claw. We wrap and keep the center of our thumb there, and we curve our fingers to cover these three holes. So your ring finger goes on the bottom hole, your middle finger goes on the middle hole, and your pointer finger goes on the top hole. And on the top, same thing, Lego man claw. So we want to keep a curvature of our fingers. We want to have our thumb on the back hole here. We want to have our pointer finger on the top hole, our middle finger on the middle hole, and our ring finger on this hole right here. There's no ring on it, but make sure to cover every hole properly because we do not want any air leaks on this instrument. That's how you hold the clarinet. Now the first note we usually learn to play is C. So C consists of only the left hand. Keep the right hand above the holes without covering them so the air goes through properly. So we want to have 1, 2, and 3 over these holes, including the back thumb key right there. And it should sound a little something like this. That's C. Another note is called D. So D, since C and D are right next to each other, the fingering is very similar, but it's not the same. So all we want to do to play D is lift up our ring finger. So let this hole free. Keep all the other fingers down, not the bottom, just thumb, finger, and middle finger down on the top hole, the middle hole, and the thumb hole in the back. And do the same breathing and embouchure setup. I'll play the note. And that's D. And the final note we're going to learn today in this beginner lesson is E, the next note after D. So, like C and D, it's kind of the same. So C was all fingers down. D was this finger up with these other 3 fingers down. And E is just going to be your pointer finger and your thumb finger on the back. So we want to lift up these 2 fingers here and have your pointer finger and your thumb covering the holes. Keep all the other holes open. Just sound a little something like this. And that's E. What we're going to do now is something called transposition of keys. And what transposition is reading music in one key, but actually playing it in another key. So right now I have something called a transposition chart up on the screen, and I'm going to help you how to interpret it. So the clarinet is in B flat. That's what we know. So all the notes are in the key of B flat on the instrument. And there's going to be times in the near future where there's going to be music in other keys that's in E flat or C or F or even D flat. It's kind of rare for transposition to be in F and D flat, but I think in clarinet it's more common in C and E flat. So let's get right into it. So the first thing we need to know is C and B flat are very close to each other. They're 2 half steps apart, so 2 half steps is equal to 1 whole step. So it's not too hard to transpose from B flat to C. So going from B flat to C, we see D is equal to C. So when we're reading the music, it's going to say C on the music, but we're actually going to be playing a D on our physical instrument. It's like reading in concert pitch. So if that helps at all. And what we're going to do now is, since we know the notes C, D, and E, we're going to play a little song to test your knowledge. And we're going to be playing Hot Cross Buns. That song consists of the notes we just learned, C, D, and E. So I'll get the music up so you can play along with me. So Hot Cross Buns starts on the note E. So that's your pointer finger and your thumb. And the next note is D. So put your middle finger down. And then the next note is C. So put your ring finger over the hole right there. And then the next measure is the same thing. 1 and finger. Middle finger, pointer, and thumb. All 3 plus the back thumb. And then the next note is where we incorporate more of our T and tonguing syllable. So we play 4 C's. So we're going to go 2, 2, 2, 2 with C. And then the same thing with D. So 4 T's on D. And then we go up to E, we hold it out, and then we go to D, and then we go to C. Now, we're actually going to play it in time. So we are in 4/4, that means there's 4 beats in a measure, and I'll have the sheet music up so you can play along with me. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that concludes our first clarinet lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I inspired you to kind of go practice and be more in tune with your clarinet playing and all of your music endeavors, because that's what I'm here for. And be on the lookout for more instrument lessons by me in the future.